Hi, everybody, and welcome to another cast of a game in the France Deck Tourney of a tournament on Play-agricola.com. My name is Andy. I go by Kimball on this site, and we're just gonna be commentating what's going on in this game. And joining me is Nathan and nwoll.
Hello, everyone, and I'm glad to be Kimball's sidekick here in this game.
So basically what we're seeing here is they're just finishing up the draft on this website. We only play Agricola with the draft of occupations and minor improvements. So they're just finishing up that draft, and then we're going to be watching the second of the tournament game with these four players here, Manpanzee, jonswar, Power Sharpener, and Ken. So they have played one game so far, and then this is the second game, and there's two games in round one. And it looks like one of them is actually asking me a question wants to ask me a rules question. Try and type this, and if you want to kind of comment on how game one went, Nathan, while I'm doing that.
Sure. So these four players, as Kimball said, played against each other in the first game, and Manpanzee won the game with a score of 46. In second place was jonswar with a score of 41. Power Sharpener was in third place with a score of 36, and Ken came in fourth place with a score of 34. Manpanzee took what I would consider a unique route to victory. He only played one occupation during the game, and it was the stone cutter, and he kind of rode the stone cutter and the French deck miner that's called 5 gives him a stone discount on improvements, and was able to collect some of the high-scoring major improvements, and just played an all-around very good game to win the game.
Yeah, it was an interesting and kind of surprising strategy when you have 7 occupations to work with. And you just said, I only need one.
And so it's interesting when you approach the second game in the tournament based on the format, because how the tournament is set up is your scores from the first game, your scores from the second game will be combined, and the two highest scores will advance. Am I saying that right, Kimball?
Yeah, I believe that's correct. And I have to take a second here because Power Sharpener is asking me a very interesting question, rules question.
Oh, okay. So yeah, feel free to, if you need to look that up, that's fine. So, keeping in mind that the combination scores is determine which players will advance in the tournament. Manpanzee does not have to get first place or even second place as long as he outscores Power Sharpener, Ken, or jonswar by the correct amount. So the difference in scores from the first game, Manpanzee again had the highest score. He was 5 points ahead of jonswar, who was 5 points ahead of Power Sharpener, who was 2 points ahead of Ken. So I would say there's probably a lot of pressure on Ken, but it's certainly doable. We've already seen another game of this tournament where the person who came in fourth in the first game came in first in the second game and did advance, and that was actually Kimball himself in his tournament game.
Yes, we just played a little bit earlier, and I got a bit lucky. Some of the cards, and third game get to score first in the first game with enough of a lead that I was able to advance. So yeah, certainly not out of it. He's got 7 points behind jonswar there, I think we said. And so if he can score that much ahead of him, then he'll be able to advance. So, yeah, nothing's set yet. It's still up in the air. It looks like this rules dispute was resolved. Power Sharpener was asking about a very interesting interaction. Acrobat, which is the card that lets you jump from traveling players to either grain or plow at the end of the round. So you take traveling players, and then at the end of the round, your peep gets to jump to grain or plow. And there's a France deck card called Hay Rate that says your third person may use plow whether it's occupied or not. And so his question was, if he uses his third person on traveling players, can it then jump to plow, whether it's occupied or not?
That's a very interesting question. What was your response?
I said, it seems like it would work to me. So if he uses his third person action to go to traveling players, and then later on that third person jumps to plow, should be able to take it. And I said, I think so. But it's definitely not clear-cut, and there might be a lot of, if we put that one on the forums, which that's kind of how we try and solve a lot of these rule disputes as we put them up on the forums and discuss, I'm sure there would be many, a robust discussion about that ruling. But I said, I think it makes sense to me, and we'll see what they say.
I think I agree with that ruling. I'm trying to remember the exact wording of the hay rake. Is it hay rake?
Yep.
But I think it does specify that it's the third family member. So I mean, if you use your third family member in traveling players, it's still the third family member. So I would agree with your interpretation.
Yep. Anyway, here they go. So they're off, and the power sharpener. So anyway, I mean, just curious to see what strategies they go with. And it was interesting in the first game with these four, they kind of took, the first few actions were kind of the expected occupation, reed, stone, food, 3 wood. But then the second actions were all a bit surprising, I think.
Well, Ken took the 1 reed. That was unusual.
Reed, and then someone took day laborer. I think someone took plows. Things that we don't usually expect. And so we'll see if we see some unorthodox openings here, or if it's more of the standard opening. Power sharpener takes a long time here, though.
And now that I know he has acrobat, I wonder if we'll see the some of the other French deck cards that combine with traveling players.
Yeah, I would hope so. That'd be interesting to see some more French deck cards come out. Okay, so they're off, leading with reed, stone, food, and then 3 wood. No one wants to play occupations right away. There won't be much for us to comment on unless they actually play cards.
Do you think we'll see an evening prayers come out?
Sorry,
evening prayers, the France deck occupation that if you plow...
Maybe. Well, they have a deck collector, so this is the first France deck occupation. Again, that's kind of fun. They start with the France deck occupation, so that's great at this release tournament. So deck collector, when you play this card, place a guest token on any round space at least 3 higher than the current round. At the start of that round, pay the starting player, which may be you, 1 food, and place the guest. So what's really interesting here, Manpanzee has put his guest on round 7, which is very, very interesting. So he could have put it on round 4, but instead he went all the way to round 7. So at the beginning of round 7, he'll get to take the first action with that guest.
And jonswar has also played a French deck occupation?
Yep, so the Parquet Center? Parquet. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I guess it's Parquet.
I'm not sure either.
At the end of each work phase in which you reduce the number of your unused farm spaces, 1 wood. If you reduce it by 2 or more spaces, you also get a food. So he's going to have incentive to try and work on filling up his farmyard spaces once or two with a plow or 2 every round. So I'll expect him to plow right here. And otherwise, Ken, is that Ken with the 1 reed? No, Power Sharpener took the 1 reed this time. Again, I'm really surprised. That's to me, that's kind of a surprising first action. Do you think so?
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, this is Matt. Sorry,
Awesome.
guys. Some technical difficulties.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
It's good to have you.
Yeah, we're going to welcome Matt to the cast here. So, Matt, why don't you just say a few things to introduce yourself? Just say hi to the crowd.
Great. This is Matt, known as MattTheLesser on Play-agricola.com. I've been part of the community for, probably 5 or 6 years now, and excited to be getting this tournament. And I created one of the cards in the France deck, Brickyard. Not a particularly powerful card, but a fun little brick complement to the old G Pine Forest. So I'm excited to see it get some play.
Yeah, I was hoping something that my one card would show up too on here, so I could cheer it on, but it hasn't yet in the cast. So anyway,
same for me.
yeah. So we've got some interesting things in the opening here, and some less surprising things. First of all, what we saw here is Manpanzee took Debt Collector, which if you read, it's the placing the guest, and because of the way the board refreshes here, the guest disappeared. But he put that guest on round 7. Which is very far in the future, so planning way ahead there. I guess he's trying to guarantee that he'll get family growth that round, potentially. And otherwise, just collecting resources. Sorry, go on.
Well, I've seen players play Debt Collector in Stage 1, but I've almost always seen them put the guest on round 6, not round 7. The thought process of round 6 is either family growth is out by then and you can grow, or it's not out and you can take start player to make sure you grow in round 7. So I guess I'm just not really sure why he put it on round 7, to be honest.
Yeah, well, we'll see what's up. How about you, Matt? Have you seen that sort of play before? I just had never seen it on round 7 before.
I'm not sure I've seen it on round 7. I've seen it on both round 6, as you said, and I have seen it on round 5. You know, if you have enough miners that you can afford to chase for a couple rounds, then you can go ahead and put it on round 5. But yeah, round 7's a little strange. I guess maybe his other miners aren't so great, and so he doesn't want to be bothered, having to take start player a bunch. So he just goes and says, okay, I'll take it round 7. I know when I'm going to get it, and just play the rest of my game until then and not have to worry about the family growth queue, which is kind of nice.
Okay, so now let's talk about some of the other things here. Back to Manpanzee, he's apparently playing Hoarder, second
which is Stage 1. Yeah.
Yeah.
True. So this is, and it's not a trans deck, it's a WM occupation. Gets you bonus points for putting goods on it, but usually you don't play it in Stage 1 because you put a good on it each harvest, and you get rewarded for having 4 different types of goods. So, what do you guys think about what would you be doing by playing it that early?
I would guess that he has a 2-oc minor improvement that he would like to play, and that he doesn't anticipate playing any other occupations for a while. That would be my only thought.
That seems like the most logical answer. That's what I think.
That's about the only thing I can think of as well. And so then we also have jonswar also playing a second occupation, Head of the Revolution, and this is another one of these 1, 2, 3, 4 wood occupations, and this one gives 3 bonus points to the next player who fills up their farm. So that's an interesting new one.
Probably a good combination with his first occupation, the parquet setter, or whatever it's called.
Reward for filling up his farm, and then rewarded with resources by the parquet setter, and then rewarded in points by the Head of the Revolution if he gets it all filled up.
Yes, Head of the Revolution can create some pretty contentious plays, and oftentimes some plays that would otherwise be somewhat inefficient in farm building, and so players have to weigh whether or not those 3 bonus points are worth potentially maybe having 1 or 2 fewer fields or 1 less pasture or something like that. So we'll see. That'll be an interesting thing to watch probably rounds 10 and 11.
Yeah, I've definitely.
Yep.
I do like the dynamic that card creates. People fill up efficiently for those 3 points.
I think we should also mention that Ken played Grain Elevator, which I haven't seen played very frequently, but it was actually, I think, a very underrated card. As long as no one else sort of jumps in there and creates any competition for the grain spot. So let's see what Ken does with that. He does tend to steer toward baking strategies.
Yeah, so Grain Elevator being that miner that builds up grain every round, and then when you go to the take 1 grain spot, you get to take all the grain from it. But if anyone else goes to the take 1 grain spot, then it clears out. So as long as it's uncontested, it can be a really nice, massive, stacks of grain build up. It builds up to, maxes out at the number of players, but still, if you can max it out, you take 5 grain with 1 action later on. It's really, I agree that it's kind of underrated in regular play here.
So looking toward, I was going to say sort of looking, this is the part of the game where you start looking toward, who's going to build and stuff. It looks like Power Sharpener and Manpanzee are probably going to get the first rooms, unless jonswar has a hidden brushwood roof or clay roof, maybe with that clay grab. But we will see.
I'm kind of curious about Ken's opening here with outplaying occupations, but he's also doesn't really have a lot of resources.
Yeah,
He's definitely going for some sort of grain bake strategy because he got that, he got that plow and spent his wood on that grain elevator.
So did Power Sharpener play a passing miner to get that extra read, or did he take a single read?
He took 1 read first round. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yes,
Yeah, that was right after I missed. So.
Yeah, we were commenting on that. It seemed a bit strange, and it was funny because Ken did that in the first game of these 4 as well. First action or second action 1 read.
And I will say for Ken, it turned out to be the right play because he was able to play axe and then build the room because he never did wasn't able to get another read before that point. So.
Yeah, I think I've seen that 1 read play be very advantageous in a 5-player game, but I think it's much rarer in a 4-player game. The only time I personally think that it's usually worth it is if you're going 4th and the start player takes start player again, then you sometimes have no choice but to take that 1 read.
Yeah.
But I guess, I did watch the other cast though, and that did work out for Ken, so maybe I'm undervaluing that play.
Yeah. Well, so Ken gets the first fireplace here, which is, nice for him with sheep coming in round 2. So that's kind of a nice setup. And then suddenly people seem to be thinking that food is going to be scarce, so with fish and traveling players taken at 3. Interesting setup.
I would say that's probably 50% of games or so they get taken at 3, and then another one maybe one of them gets to 4. I actually think those 3F or even 4F if you can get them plays in stage 1 are pretty strong. Enabling you to sort of focus more on getting your resources towards building rooms.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Although sometimes what offsets that is when the sheep come early, people kind of think, oh, well, those sheep, someone has a big food engine with those sheep, so I don't really need to jump on pre-food. I can wait for it to build up to 4.
Yeah, that could happen. I guess jonswar is probably going to plow next round to get some food. No, but then he'd have to plow twice.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think.
jonswar is in a little bit of a sad spot. I mean, he took that 3 food because notice he spent 2 ox and he paid food for both of them, and then he played the mountain cave and paid food for that. So he was down to 0, so he took the 3 food. He's still going to need 1 more here somehow. Curious how he's going to come up with that. Maybe he'll build fences or something.
Potentially, or even a day laborer action here wouldn't be the worst situation for him, especially if he has clay roof or something like that. Or maybe he potentially has one of those cards that benefits having early animals, which are prevalent in France deck. Where there's both the cat something or another that I'm forgetting the name, and then also
cat lover and benefactor.
Correct, those 2, right? So if he builds and he gets his food that way, maybe you can even steal those sheep from Ken if he's lucky.
That would be interesting to see those cards get played. I'd like to see them.
Yeah, I mean, I was guessing that he might be doing some fence shenanigans here. I mean, he's got those 2 occupations that want him to fill up his farm, so I wouldn't be surprised if he goes straight for it.
And Ken hasn't updated his little...
I Manpanzee takes day labor, so I guess Jonswar has few options now.
Wow.
I wonder.
Interesting play.
Yeah, I wonder if this is in his plan or if now he has to. Oh, or he could beg.
There's your last option that we didn't talk about.
That is true. So maybe, likely, he has some sort of occupation or minor that allows him to discard a beggar. This is really interesting, though, because Ken didn't take those sheep, so maybe Jonswar is going to steal them. That would create a tough situation for kind of Ken as well. Oh, and he's begging too, so probably he has something to get rid of them.
Yes, you'd think either almshouse or mendicant would be the two, maybe borrower, but probably one of the former.
Probably. So Power Sharpener with an early play of Wealthiest European to get 3.
Yeah, so he gets 3 resources out of that. Sorry, Nathan, cutting out a little, I think. But 3 resources out of it because you get 1 resource for each round that's been completed. But you have to play it. Just what he needed so that he'll have enough resources to build 2 rooms in one go. And sure enough, Jonswar grabs the sheep here. So that's going to make, maybe make it tough for Ken because he was probably counting on those. But he does have that grain building up too. So Ken might be in the fine position anyway.
Yeah. And just to comment on Power Sharpener's play there, this is another thing that I think I haven't seen done as frequently as I would have expected, which is people playing Wealthiest European in Stage 1 or early Stage 2, just for those 2 or 3, 4 crucial resources towards that first room. So I think this is a pretty strong play for Power Sharpener, assuming that he can get a food engine up and going.
Yeah, I agree. I would have thought that that Wealthiest European would be used more often earlier. And occasionally. Sorry.
So I'm eyeing that. It turns out he's not going to be building 2. Well, right. Now maybe he's going back.
He's announced he's going to play homework, but he may change his mind because that does cost 2 read to play. So it will not let him build 2 rooms if he does so.
Right.
And I would say Manpanzee seems to be in a pretty strong position. Yeah. First room and early family growth that he doesn't have to protect with star player.
Yes, it'll be interesting to see now what he does with that debt collector. I don't think he's going to be able to get enough resources to build another room in time.
Yeah, that would be pretty incredible if he did that. Who knows what he'll use it for now? Maybe just grabbing resources or setting up food engine or something like that.
So Power Sharpener's decided to take 2 read. So apparently he does want to build 2 rooms, but he also wants to play homework.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a pretty great position for him. Basically, taking that 2 read seems to be shutting out Jonswar of being able to build a room, and Ken doesn't have the wood to do it either. So Power Sharpener is realizing he can just take his time.
Right. And Manpanzee has played Grain Speculator.
Potentially indicating a baking strategy there.
So Manpanzee gets the grain on rounds 1, 3, and 5 in the future from that occupation. And then Jonswar just builds the cooking hearth. So I guess maybe he just wanted the food, and that's what he was setting up with those animals.
He could also still play Cat Lover, which would immediately solve his read problem if he does happen to have it.
I still kind of expect that, something like that along those lines. Some sort of occupation that gets bonuses from having those sheep.
I agree. I think Cat Lover probably is coming or something similar.
Okay, so here comes Power Sharpener with his homework. So that's going to cost him the 2 read and 2 food, and he'll be able to play 2 occupations right away. We'll see what these are.
Ha!
There it is, Dancer and Acrobat.
Okay, so that's an old school combo that we got there. So the Dancer, which lets you get always 4 food on traveling players, and Acrobat, which lets you jump from traveling players to either plow or take 1 grain. So those are just both from the base decks, and it's kind of a classic combo in my mind.
Correct. And Ken better jump on his grain quickly, and yep, there it goes. Because that Acrobat will start to threaten that.
Yep, and then he's able to grab 3 grain in 1 go. He's all set up to get either oven that he wants, too. So he's got his feeding, I guess, looks like in a good spot. Although, curious that he even bothered. Yeah, he has a fireplace, too, so maybe he'll just bake with that. I don't know. Pretty ugly.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I actually think Ken's in a pretty good position here because he's going to get enough wood with just 1 more grab coming up next round to be able to build his first room. And so he will still probably grow either 3rd or 4th, depending on what jonswar does. But that's, completely in the realm of normal play. And given that I think he's in the best food situation, I actually like Ken's position here.
Yeah, I agree, especially now he gets that 6 wood. Yeah, I just meant it's ugly to have to buy both the fireplace and then later on decide, no, I want an oven. You kind of feel like you wasted some moves. But now you're right, though. He gets his 6 wood. He's in a spot to build a room. He should be doing...
Do we he'll grow this round and next round, or do you think he'll forego next round? Is he going to have enough food?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would suspect Power Sharpener will have something up his sleeve. He's a pretty good player, so I suspect he's not going to rely only on Dancer and Acrobat. And I would not be surprised if he went for the double family grow here. So family grow this round and then again next round.
Yes, although if he takes family grow this round, I think he will have no choice but to take traveling players with his first action next round, which means that if jonswar does have cat lover, as we suspected, jonswar may be able to build and grow in the interim.
Yeah, that's true.
But then jonswar won't have enough food, will he? Oh yeah, he has a cooking hearth in the animals. Okay. Okay, so he's fine.
Well, maybe Power Sharpener will have some sort of miner here that will show us what he's up to.
And just after we talked well about Ken's position, maybe not so much if Power Sharpener is able to grow twice first.
Yeah. Well, Reed Pawn doesn't really get him food, so Power Sharpener might have to forego his second family grow. He can't. Yeah, I was expecting maybe something that gave him a little bit of food here.
Yeah, I don't think there are any cards in these decks that give food directly from reed or stone that I'm aware of.
Right, I was thinking maybe just some sort of pond, like duck pond or goose pond or something like that. Ken just has a huge feeding engine going on. So Ken plays all because he hasn't played an occupation yet and gets a ton of food. So his food engine is definitely good to go. And he's renovating.
I was just going to say, did he renovate with that?
Yeah, so Ken is definitely employing some sort of alternate strategy here. Maybe he has Farm Steward?
Maybe he has Cowboy and Mother, though I think he would have played it earlier if he does.
No, I would just guess he either has something, maybe Clay, or something like that, would be my guess.
Yeah, I would say Clayhead Extension or Farm Steward would be the most likely, I think.
And in the meantime, the resources on the board are getting to be pretty sizable. You've got the 6 clay and the 4 wood there, and they're just going to build up bigger next round. So this is pretty interesting stuff here.
And I think Manpanzee is
You guys called it. There it is.
There it is. There's the cat lover. Were you going to say, Matt, you
Right.
think Manpanzee is probably going to play oven?
Well, I think he's going to play an oven, but I also think he's going to be the one who will most benefit from these large stacks of resources that are building up due to the fact that everyone else seems to, well, not Ken now, but he has few actions, and jonswar and Power have a little bit of food issues, and Manpanzee also has this guest, so he's going to have 4 actions in round 7.
Yeah, this is going to be a really, great round for him. So he takes the 6 clay now, and then in round 7 he gets 4 actions. Probably just going to take 6 wood with his first action here.
Wow.
Well, so Manpanzee started this game out in front by 5 points, and right now, about halfway through, I see no indication that that lead will change. That's kind of my feeling. And then the other 4 were, jonswar was 5 points out, and then Power Sharpener 10 points out, and Ken 12 points out. So kind of halfway through the game, what are you guys feeling about the relative positions of these guys?
I feel like Power Sharpener, though, if he is able to grow this round and feed his family, that's pretty strong, having four family members taking actions starting from round 8. So he might be able to catch up.
Yeah, I think that if he's only 5 points behind jonswar, I think his game has started better than jonswar. So we'll see where this goes.
Yeah, so as we see here now, the cat lever being used to save 2 resources of the reed, specifically.
So going back to something we mentioned earlier, I just noticed that Manpanzee never played a 2-awk miner on after Hoarder, and then played Grain Speculator afterwards, which isn't really a something you need to wait for. So I guess maybe he just miscalculated something there, but still a little bit of a strange play, but something that will definitely still benefit him, as I'm sure he will be able to place all 4 resources and get those 5 points for Hoarder.
Yeah, that is definitely a bit odd. We expected that he was really trying to power out some 2-awk miner, and he just said, nope, that's fine.
So now Power Sharpener has the decision of whether or not to grow.
Oh no. Okay, so unfortunately, I think, there was a little bit of miscommunication here. So of course, Power Sharpener is taking the food. Power Sharpener didn't think that Manpanzee could build, jonswar could build. He didn't realize that jonswar actually had 3 sheep, so the cat lever would give him 2 reed discount. Apparently his window was not large enough to see where the sheep were. So that's a little fortunate. But
all right, so let's
traveling players to feed his family.
And let's see if Ken, what he plays here. Now, that's interesting.
Renovating again. This could be very interesting.
I bet he has Tower, or whatever, I don't know the new name.
Lighthouse? Lighthouse.
If he is renovating, this is a man after my heart. Oh, yes. Ken is now my hero. He's got to have some sort of stone house occupations or something going on, and possibly, probably at least lighthouse or stone house extension, or some of those, something like that. So we'll see.
And Ken he also just wrote in the chat, one of you stole one of my ox, which leads me to believe that he probably has multiple of these stone house ox. So this should be interesting.
Yeah, that's exactly what I write when people steal my Stonehouse Ox as well. So that's exactly what happened. So this should be fun. See if he can compete with the big families versus the small family with the automatic farms.
Now, Lighthouse cost 2 stone and a wood, correct? If I recall. So he still needs a stone?
Something like that. I can't remember exactly what it cost. I think that's right.
Oh, Scholar, that's a great card for his situation.
Yes.
Yep. He's just going to be able to start dumping out his occupations and potentially major.
So there's the oven, as we expected for Manpanzee. Easily feeds him for this harvest. And he has a couple more grains coming. Again, I still think, so far Manpanzee is probably in the best position. And with enough resources for another room, should he choose to go that way before renovating?
Yep. Yeah, I agree. So he's just coming along nicely. He's got his food set up. He's been able to take some big stacks of resources. He can really kind of go in whatever direction he wants.
It's one of the big benefits of being the first to grow in Agricola is that you often get those big stacks of resources while other players are still building and growing their first family members, which is why it is there is a strong correlation, I would say, between growing early and winning the game.
I agree, yes.
Yeah, let's see if Ken can prove us wrong here. He's going for the not grow anytime soon strategy. And sometimes that can pull up, but you need the support. You need occupations and miners that will save you enough or tons of actions somehow. And Scholar's a good start, so we'll see.
Yeah, Scholar is really almost
was
like having another family member. It's that strong this early in the game.
It was unfortunate for Ken, I think, given that he knew he was going to go this route, that family growth rolled in round 5. I believe that if it had come in round 6 or especially round 7, I think he would really be sitting well if he has some of the cards that we think he does.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So this is always the part of the game, too, where when I'm playing, I start to try to think what are going to be things that are contested going forward, what's going to be in scarce supply. And we only have one field plowed, but we do have a decent amount of wood. So fields might be a little bit scarce if no one has a plow, but nothing is standing out to me particularly as something that everyone's going to be fighting over yet.
Right, wood won't be as scarce because Ken didn't build any wood rooms, so that's going to probably leave it out. And then, of course, we did have a 4 woodlock, as you mentioned.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, I agree. This is definitely the time when I kind of look around and say, all right, can I get my plows in? Can I get all that wood for my fences? And then try and decide whether it's a good idea to build that 4th wood, build another wood room or not. Or maybe get a plow in now because it's going to be tough later.
So, to try to get another room, if he takes the 2 wood, he can build a room with it now that he has 4 animals. I wonder.
So Ken just played the tutor with his scholar, which is obviously excellent because he can continue to play those occupations and get it'll be 5 points if he's able to play them all. And then interestingly took start player crib, which is a miner that only helps you when you grow. When you grow, it gives you 2 food, or you can pay 2 food for a point. So this leads me to believe that he does in fact have either tower or stone house extension, which he will try to play with his scholar at the beginning of next round.
Either that or farm steward. Yeah.
Correct.
Right. I wonder, to be honest, I don't know that I've ever seen anyone use the crib and pay food for points. Is that something you guys have run across? Just curious.
Twice.
Very, very rarely.
Yeah, so the crib is interesting that way. It's like, yeah, you can get some bonus points if you have tons and tons of food.
The only times I can think of it happening are people taking usually family growth without room in one of the last couple rounds when the game is essentially over and you're kind of trying to scrounge for whatever points are left in a relatively high-scoring game.
Okay, so interestingly
Yeah,
now
I guess possible.
the rules question that Power Sharpener was wondering about earlier has come up, and we'll see kind of what they all think, which was that he has Acrobat and he also has Hayrake, and so he was asking what happens if I put my third player on Traveling Players. Can I jump to Plow and take Plow even if someone else is on it? So now they're going to discuss that. And I said, yes, I think it works. And now, of course, there's some argument in the...
I agreed with Kimball, by the way, that I thought it worked as well.
I, too, would agree, because the wording on Acrobat is that you actually move the player that's on Acrobat. On the website, most people will represent that by placing a guest, but that's not the technical wording of the card, and so it's the same person. So I would agree with you guys that is why it would be valid.
Yeah, that was my rationale as well. Hopefully they'll talk it out and see what they think.
It seems like Ken is the odd man out here arguing against.
Well, so maybe they'll comment and ask me about this, but until they do, I'm not going to interject my opinion here. Yes, and Power Sharpener is representing exactly the argument you were saying. Like, the wording of the card is that you literally move that person from Traveling Players to Plow. So that's his argument, and I think jonswar says that's okay. And Manpanzee is saying maybe that's okay.
And they're bringing up the example of Forest Farmer, which is a little bit of the opposite of Acrobat in that you start on Plow and then allows you to place a guest somewhere else. But again, that key difference is that you're placing the guest instead of moving the person that you've already placed.
Well, while they are doing that discussion, I guess we can kind of talk about what else is going on here. I don't know if too much has changed recently.
Ken did, in fact, take 2 stone with his second action this round, which further leads me to believe that we may be seeing a lighthouse or a stonehouse extension at the beginning of next round.
Yep, I agree.
And meanwhile, we were also talking about the potential of having plows be scarce, but with Power Sharpener playing both Plowmaker and Hayrake since then, that will alleviate some of that pressure. And interestingly, too, I think it could potentially give Power Sharpener a bit of a track toward getting the Head of the Revolution bonus. jonswar does not have that much wood with which to build fences to chase that card.
Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about that. Yeah, Plowmaker is definitely a good help to that.
Manpanzee could potentially go after it as well. He just did Reno. So now he could use that wood to go after it as well if he's willing to be a little bit inefficient with his pastures.
Okay, well, they moved on, and it seems like they're going to allow it, which is nice that we don't have just kind of rolling with it.
Okay, thanks.
So Manpanzee went to renovate. He decided not to build his another wood room, despite having the resources for it. He just renovated and went to pottery, which is kind of interesting. So I guess... I don't know. Well, pottery makes a lot of sense. He has the clay pit. So he's clearly just kind of going to make that part of his feeding engine. Otherwise, probably just thinking that wood is going to be scarce, would be my guess. You guys still around?
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm still on my sort of trying to figure out what's going to be the limiting factor in this game, and with nothing jumping out to me, that usually means that it will end up being a relatively high-scoring game, and we may see players start to scramble to try to build these major improvements to raise a concept that people call a point ceiling, which is sort of what's the maximum number of points that you could get with a given hand if the game goes the way you expect it to, which for most of these players does seem to now be the case.
Yeah. So that is kind of a good call. Yeah, since it looks like it's not going to be very much contested anywhere, so it's just kind of like you got to get the resources. So here comes Ken, Scholar playing his minor, and it is Lighthouse. Okay, cool. So yay, another France deck card. So basically, he just gets to have the Lighthouse provide him room for a family member. So you can only play it when you're in a two-room stone house, which Ken has, and he's ready. And all the other players are saying, "Yeah, surprise."
It's a very, very good card in the situation that Ken has, which is having support or other reasons to go to a stone house early.
Yeah, so I assume he still has more occupations coming that are going to support that stone house. We'll see.
And he also built the wood-fired oven, which makes sense given his large amount of grain from the grain elevator. So it gives him a bit more of a food engine there.
Yeah.
It's costly with the wood, though. I'm trying to think if there's enough wood out there for him to be able to fence now when he wants to.
Yeah, all of a sudden it is looking like wood is going to be a little bit tight. Notice jonswar doesn't have any, and Power only has 3. I mean, there's still a fair amount of game left, but I think that might be something that's going to get tight here.
Yeah, and I think that Power Sharpener, by getting to 4 players so quickly and then having this nice combo, being able to plow some fields quickly, I think has sort of caught up to Manpanzee and sort of who's in pole position at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
He still needs a bit of a better feeding engine. Dancer Acrobat is nice, but hard to feed on only that as you get up to having 4 and 5 family members.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's not gonna cut it for a family of 4, basically.
I would guess he might try to target the stone oven since he'll have some grain and probably want to sew and bake. Or possibly the basket maker's workshop. I forgot he had the reed pond, so he's got reed.
Well, we grabbed a big pile of clay, so that suggests to me like he might be considering a renovate and an oven, or potentially even renovate a fireplace. But
Yeah, we'll see if he tries to grab another stone first.
I like that occupation.
yeah, so this is a pretty interesting one, the Trailblazer. So this is the one where if you have no empty plowed fields on your farm at the start of the round, you can pay a food to plow a field. So if you have some way to keep sowing onto your fields, then you get to keep plowing. It's kind of interesting. But if they're just empty, then you don't get to keep plowing. I think it's a pretty cool card as well, an interesting design. We'll see what use he can make out of it. But definitely, you can come up with some pretty interesting combos.
And what do we think he's going to do with that clay?
Can are you saying?
Yes. Pottery is not available. I can't figure out what his plan is there.
Yeah, he may have something like a clay path,
So
or maybe, yeah, it's kind of all I can think of.
well, clay cellar. Someone said clay cellar in the chat, and that's possible. But why would you grab it or grab the clay now?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a hit to jonswar, who very much could have used that clay.
Yeah, although interestingly now jonswar has the animal breeder, which is going to allow him to build fences and get more animals, and potentially even power up his cat lover even further. That could be very interesting if he tries to build even more rooms.
Again, animal breeder, for those not familiar, allows you to purchase animals, cows for 3 food, boars for 2 food, sheep for 1 food. Whenever you build fences, it is considered a very, very strong occupation, and we see jonswar use it right there to buy. Oh, now he's changing his mind and saying he's going to buy boars. Actually, a card, animal breeder, that I had in our first tournament game that we played earlier tonight.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, I'm a really big fan of that card. It just allows you to have so much combo potential. There's just tons of things that key off of different types of animals, and that just lets you get whichever one you want. So I'm a big fan.
Yeah, it's a very, very strong.
So one thing to point out as we come up on the Stage 3 harvest, that Manpanzee will begin to put resources on his hoarder, presumably moving toward those points.
Well, Power Sharpener is about to do some very interesting plays here. He's renovating with Slapdash renovation.
And he did go with the basket makers as his other major.
What is he doing here? He's announcing many things in the chat, is what he's doing. I guess he's taking Start Player and then also renovating, taking back the Suitmaker's Workshop, and then probably using Dancer and Acrobat. Not entirely sure if he's doing all of that. He's announcing very many things. Know that much.
I think that would make a lot of sense, and I approve very much of him playing Slapdash renovation on Start Player. I think that players too frequently play it when they renovate, and it does give you the ability to pull it back, playing it on that action. But then you're playing a minor action on one of your few chances to play a major improvement. So whenever I have that card, I generally try to play it on either Start Player or Family Growth, and so then you can use that renovation action to its full potential.
Right, and that is what he did, and so he got, renovated and played the Basket Maker's Workshop, and then did Traveling Players and apparently he jumped to Grain after all. Oh, and now
there's the reason.
Yeah. So Ken now played his occupation as Scholar to play the Clay Fire, so apparently he wanted to turn all that clay into stone. So that's what the Clay Fire lets you convert.
And it will be interesting to see what he does with that stone. As we mentioned earlier, he could go after some of the remaining major improvements, such as the well or the stone oven, or he may potentially have the card that allows you to plow fields if you build stone rooms, which would be a very interesting play for him here.
Yeah, actually, earlier in our tournament game, Guy used that. It's kind of an underrated card, I think, maybe not underrated. It's tricky to use card from France deck. That's when if you build a stone room, you get to plow. And it's hard to build stone rooms, it turns out. So he managed to use it and plow 2 fields and then sow for a ton of points.
You know what? I think that is what he has. He just took Reedstone Foods, so that would fit with that combination.
Okay, so now we see someone making a move on Head of Revolution. Look at Manpanzee there, dropping 15 fences, filling up nearly all the space on his farm. He's only 2 spaces away from grabbing those 3 bonus points.
Correct. He elects to go with the 9-space 2 pastures for 14 wood. And given that he has already played the horse, which gives him points for not having one type of animal, This doesn't hinder him that much, as he still has plenty of room to hold 2 types of animals and ignore the third.
Yeah, but as you said earlier, you were saying earlier that this is, that type of pasture kind of sacrifices a little bit. Now he can get a maximum of 3 fields and only those 2 pastures. So he's giving up a few other points, potentially, for getting those bonus points, and he's not even quite there yet. So,
That's true. I'm a little bit surprised that he didn't go ahead and spend 1 more wood to make that second pasture a 3x1 instead of a 1x1. I'm sure he has a reason for keeping that extra wood around, but that would at least increase his animal capacity a little bit.
Right. Well, so here goes Ken. He's converting into stone. He's just straight up building a stone room. No combo with it. Interesting.
I am a little bit surprised that we haven't seen, I would say at least 1 more stonehouse occupation from Ken yet. Scholar and Lighthouse is a good combo, but I think normally if I were going to go for that with 2 rooms, I'd probably want at least 1 more card, but we'll see. There's still time.
Yeah, I agree that, I'm a little surprised that something hasn't come up yet. I was expecting probably Plow Driver or Silo Girl or something like that. But not there yet. But as you say, there is still time.
Yeah, and many of the commenters in the chat are cheering Ken for building a just straight up stone room, which is pretty rare.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Power Sharpener is gathering up to look. It looks like he probably will try to sow before round 11, which has the advantage of whichever field you sow your vegetable on will be cleared in time for another re-sow in round 14, which is always nice.
Yeah, that's definitely a good thing. A good thing to try and keep track of is just the timing on sowing your crops. I think that was something I learned early on playing this game, is that someone said, well, look, you always want to sow in round 11 so that you get that field back, and exactly like you said. And that's what he's going to be aiming for here.
Let's see.
It seems like 2 boar would have been a better play for him.
For who?
Now he sows to activate his Trailblazer.
Yep.
So that makes a lot of sense, and that'll put him only 1 field away from grabbing those Head of the Revolution points, and no one else is even really close, so it looks like we won't have too much of a scramble for that going on. You have to wonder if maybe Manpanzee could have been a little bit more ambitious with his farm design.
Yeah, that is a little surprising, although it's possible he's just playing the odds, the fact that he is 5 points up on everyone, and so maybe he just wants to make sure no one else gets those 3 points and try and seal it. I'm not sure if that's the best play here.
We see Power Sharpener playing Hedgemaster, which is an excellent WM dock occupation that allows you to build fences, and then every subsequent time that you build fences, you get a bonus point. I'm sure jonswar is lamenting the fact that he doesn't have it in his hand to go with his animal breeder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would suspect that he probably saw both of them and was really hoping for Hedgemaster to come back. Did not.
Ken has informed us what the occupation that he wanted to get back.
He should not be saying such things. Kind of kibitzing about what occupations might be in the draft, but We'll see if it matters.
Well, it's always an interesting, I guess, depending on sort of the house rules on table talk, sometimes revealing things may be to your advantage, and if it's not explicitly outlawed, a little bit of, game theory going on there.
Yes, that is true. That is true. Although Power Sharpener immediately says, "Please don't talk about it."
Yeah.
I have an expectation that you shouldn't be talking about it.
So now Ken plays, oddly, the Carpenter, which my guess here is that he's probably just playing that to get a point for the tutor.
Yeah, that would also be my guess. I am surprised he didn't wait for that to build his stone room.
There's an interesting comment you made earlier, too, about Manpanzee potentially just playing it safe with his farm. I think that one of the oddities of this tournament having the 2 games in the first round is that sometimes people's incentives can be a little bit skewed, and that coming in first place isn't necessarily the number one objective like it would be in a normal game. So that's why we might be seeing a couple plays that we may not see in other situations.
Yeah. Oops, so now Manpanzee going to grab start player, or hold on to start player rather, and get that all-important round 12 action, either family growth without room or plow sow. Guessing he's hoping for family grow without room, given his farm setup.
Yes, that would make sense, and I think that for these last few rounds here, I think the number one thing to focus on will be jonswar and Power Sharpener. As we mentioned, they're separated by 5 points, and I think they're relatively close right now. So we'll see who's able to prevail.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like, Power Sharpener has a much better farm right now, but of course jonswar is going to get to fence and get some animals and build that up pretty quickly. But he doesn't have any crops yet, and Power Sharpener is going to get a nice big sow here. Probably will get a nice big sow here. Doesn't take it this round, but I can't imagine Ken would just sow to block him here. So my expectation was that he'll get that sow in this round, and then that'll give him a bunch of points.
And it does, and wood has turned out to be scarce here, as both Power Sharpener and Ken are, and jonswar too, really do not have enough right now to fence the amount that they want. And there's only going to be another 6, 12, 18 coming into the game, which is not going to be enough for everybody.
Yeah, very good observation. It's just, that is going to make it trouble for everyone but Manpanzee. So maybe that big 14 fence thing was correct.
So looks like they're all probably playing for second place at this point. I don't think there's any way that Manpanzee can be beaten at this juncture. Do you think?
I think that he could definitely be beaten in this game. I don't know if it would be by enough to knock him down to third place.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Because of the way he has built his farm, he really, if someone else has some big cards, you never know what's in there. And if someone else has like a big chief or, half timbered house coming up, or if someone plays braggart, he could easily be beaten. But not probably by enough to knock him out of advancing.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe even not. I actually still think Manpanzee probably is the favorite to win this game, given that he's going to get both those Head of the Revolution points and presumably 5 points from Hoarder. But
yeah, I agree with that.
We could see him lose, though. It's possible.
Okay, so I'll be very surprised if this isn't the big so here. Power sharpener. Sure enough.
Indeed it is.
He's going to get to jump to plow again and fill up his farm pretty well. He actually is, well, not really coming that close, but filling it up more than I thought he would before Manpanzee will grab those 3 points.
Right.
And will help jonswar be able to probably have not much restriction on getting to plow sow, actually, when he needs to.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we'll see too, Manpanzee. Okay, so it is family growth. So I would have been interested to see if that had been plow sow. You have to wonder if Manpanzee might have grabbed the 2 cattle instead, thinking that might give him more points in the long run. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Although the 2 boar, actually one of those 2 is probably going to get back to him.
I suspect you're right, just because no one else has room right now.
Yeah, although interestingly, well, I was trying to think, is there a way that Power Sharpener, if he takes 3 wood, does he threaten to fill up his farm? He actually does.
Yes,
So,
he does, yeah.
I think that might happen, where Power Sharpener does take 3 wood, then threatens to fill up his farm, then Manpanzee will be forced to plow, if possible. We'll see.
And John plowed. That surprised me. I would have guessed that jonswar would have taken 3 wood there.
Yeah, I agree. I was kind of expecting that, Power Sharpener wouldn't be able to make that 3 wood play. Because my feeling is that plow will not be tied up for these last few rounds. Power Sharpener doesn't need it. Manpanzee doesn't need it. But Power Sharpener didn't go for that. He just took 3 stone.
Which is a reasonable play for him as well. It both potentially sets him up to renovate or to build the stone oven with the grain that he has. So those both make sense. It's possible he didn't consider that 3 wood would potentially give him the head of the revolution.
Yeah, that's interesting. So if you're in Manpanzee's position and he does make that play, what do you do? Do you build that one stable to get those, to make sure you get those points?
Huh. It would certainly. It wouldn't. Man,
Yeah.
that would put him in a dilemma for sure.
Anyway, so it didn't happen, and he got the cows back. So kind of best of both worlds for Manpanzee, getting family grow and 2 cows.
Yeah, I think that he would not have built that stable. That would be my guess. I'm assuming he wants one of those woods to place on his hoarder.
Oh, right.
And I think that given that he's not trying to, he's just trying to score the most points that he can. I don't think it would make sense for him.
Right.
Now, if Manpanzee gets those 2 boars back with his 3rd action, it'll really be a bit of a coup for this round.
Yeah.
And some people in the chat are commenting just that he got family growth and 2 cows was very nice.
Yeah, you don't see that a lot, that 2 cows goes all the way around. It's usually one of the premium action in these past 12, 13, and 14. But if cows ever build up to 2, you kind of want to jump on it because it's either so much food or so much points, one or the other. Oh, and just like it, Power Sharpener goes for the stone oven.
And we also didn't mention, but at the beginning of the round, Ken built the well as the other large major improvement on the board, which leaves only the 2 fireplaces and the joinery left.
Yep, so not too many avenues for big points from the board, at least. It's all going to have to come from advancing their farms or minor improvements.
And I think Power Sharpener may come to regret not grabbing that 3 wood when he could have, not only because of the potential to threaten the head of the revolution, but also now just that he's going to be up against it to get more pastures.
That is true, although, curiously, Power Sharpener can actually steal Head of Revolution still, right now, because he will be able to use his combo, Traveling Players and Jump to Plow. Oh, no longer, and I was thinking he could build a stable, but jonswar just put the kibosh on that plan. But he could fence one space still as well. So
he could still do it this round, actually, if he fenced 1 space and then plowed 2, because he does have Plowmaker.
Yep. Well, we'll see if he goes for that. He doesn't. Okay.
jonswar late getting a 5th room there. It's interesting.
Yeah, I was thinking he might actually do that, given that he's got the huge discount from the cat lover going on. So he's got up to 9 animals, which means he gets that discount of 4 resources whenever he builds a wood room. So I think he spent 3 wood that room, which is a pretty great deal. So it's pretty late, but it is a nice bonus.
And it'll be interesting to see what jonswar does here as well. I think we've been clued in by Ken's comment that he probably has Conservator, which will allow him to renovate directly to stone, but he also needs to play his Mendicant, which is, I'm presuming, is what he has for these 2 begging cards. So it could get a little bit tight on the occupation spaces, actually.
Yeah, I agree.
And jonswar just said Gratz Manpanzee, which is website speak for when you concede, essentially, that someone else is going to win. So I think we do agree that that's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the case. And it looks Sharpener is going to come in second in this game, but I don't know if it'll be enough to pass jonswar for the totals.
Ken had some up his sleeve here. So Ken had Fence Dealer.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we all thought, I at least was writing him off because he did not have enough wood to build those fences, and then he played Carpenter, so I was like, oh, he must not have any useful occupations. But he was slow rolling it. So he's got Fence Dealer there, which lets you build 2 fences for 1 wood, but then you can only build 12 fences. But that actually means he's in a good spot for at least building a big pasture, which will help him out quite a bit.
Oh, and Manpanzee had a reason for the large pasture he made.
Yep, of course. So his 14 14 fences for a big pasture was not detrimental at all, because he had the manger, which means he's going to get 4 bonus points for that huge pasture.
Right, and you have to think that all the way back when the draft happened, we see that jonswar has Animal Breeder, which we presume would be his first selection, and therefore Manpanzee almost assuredly knew that Head of the Revolution was in the game, making Manger a much higher quality pick than it might be otherwise. So good drafting there by Manpanzee, if that was indeed what he was thinking.
Yeah, good observation. That probably is what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably something he was thinking of. So.
I think Ken definitely needs to fence with this action. Just take the 10 fences and not try to get the extra one.
He put in chat, he said, it is now or never. And I assume he's talking about fencing. And that's definitely correct. Yep, so there he goes. And the other players concur. 10 fences, much better than no fences, says Manpanzee.
And he builds them 2 pastures of 2x1, indicating that he thinks he can get both of his missing animals. The 3x2, 6 spaces would be more points in absolute terms, but obviously detrimental to your capacity. So I'm assuming that's what Ken believes he's going to be able to do.
Yeah. Oh, and here is as Ken called, Jonswar has the conservator, so you can rent a straight from wood to stone. And also, Manpanzee snuck in there the milking hand. So it turns out that turn where he got those 2 cows is even more ridiculous, because it really, really helped him out.
Yeah, that milking hand will provide him with, it looks like, a total of 3 food and 2 bonus points, which is pretty solid. And Power Sharpener grabs a big pile of reed for his basket maker's workshop.
Yep, I wonder if he's going to be able to renovate. I think that's kind of one thing that's going on here is between Manpanzee and Power Sharpener. Oh, Manpanzee didn't take 2 stone. I kind of assumed he'd grab 2 stone to maybe think about renovating, but instead he got 2 wood, so I guess he needed wood to put on his hoarder.
Well, and similarly, I think he needs that 1 stone to put on his hoarder.
Oh,
so right. he would want a 3 stone action, which is also interestingly what Power Sharpener wants. We could very well see Manpanzee take 3 stone with his first action next round.
Nope.
Or not.
Or not. Power Sharpener just took 2 and said, you know what, I'm going to take 2 actions to get 3 stone, that's fine.
Well, and jonswar needs another stone as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, hey, look at that. Ken did get all 3 animal types. So
there we go.
Actions this round taking them, so looks like he did well with those fences.
Do you think Jonswar, if he has Mendicant, will have to try to get him out with his first action to make sure it's not blocked next round?
That is a good question, yeah. If I were in his position, I don't know what I would do. I guess it would all depend on what I saw in the draft. Because considering if I'm in Jonswar's position, I probably know whether Power Sharpener has played his first occupation that he picked or not. And if I haven't seen Power Sharpener's first occupation yet, then I would think that maybe I have to play Mendicant. Don't know for sure, though. I mean, I imagine Manpanzee can't have any more amazing occupations, or something went horribly wrong. So maybe he thinks he can get a second spot, even if Power Sharpener has a big one to play.
So an interesting consideration here is that jonswar presumably is going to use his mountain cave to turn that 1 wood into the last stone that he needs to renovate. Right. So he's going to be able to renovate right away. So if Manpanzee takes these 2 stone with his first action, Power Sharpener probably won't be able to reno.
But again, then Manpanzee would have to take another stone if he wants to put on a hoarder, right?
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah, but
so many things to consider late in the game.
Yeah, Ken plays a very rarely played minor improvement of this scholar. That's kind of impressive. Weekly market to convert 3 grain into 2 vegetables for a big chunk of points.
Yeah, that's a very nice play for Ken. He gives up 1 point to get 3.
Mm-hmm. The commenters are saying Ken just playing all these cards that get rarely played. That is true. That's one of them.
That does tend to be his style.
Yeah.
So Jonswar is
He did
opening with the
decide.
mendicant. Yeah.
Not going to risk it after all. Yeah, so I wonder if Power Sharpener does have some pretty good occupation, or if he just is, or if jonswar is just playing it extra safe.
So you guys remind me. So was it Jonswar was up by 5 or Power Sharpener was up by 5?
Jonswar was up by 5 on Power Sharpener.
Okay. This is very interesting because I'm pretty sure that Power Sharpener is going to beat Jonswar, but I don't know if he's going to beat him by 5.
Yeah, and so that's, I mean, it shouldn't be like a little bonus, but it kind of is, that when you play something like Mendicant, you have those beggars that sit on your farm. And if someone's using this interface to look at what people's scores are, it calculates the scores automatically, but if it sees those 2 beggars, it, those show that your score is 6 less. And so that shouldn't be an advantage, but sometimes it actually is when people are kind of using this interface to look at your score, and they say, oh, well, your score is pretty low, so you must not have anything going on. And then you get to all of a sudden, surprise, 6 points, even though it really shouldn't be a surprise. So, maybe there's some of that going on. Maybe jonswar is doing that on purpose, or, maybe not. Something to think about.
No, it's an interesting comment for, people who don't play regularly on this site. If you're just playing, live with people at a table, you obviously don't have the capability to instantly call up the current score of someone's farm. So an added aspect of playing on the website. And Jonswar also has a 10-point renovation that's about to happen. So his score is definitely going to skyrocket for anyone who's monitoring it on that interface.
Yeah, I guess we could take a look and tell. I mean, like with those beggars and the 5 wood rooms and what he's got currently, it shows up as having, he's got, he removed his beggars now. Okay, all right. So before it was showing up as he had 20. Coming that he might action. Pretties, if not 50.
Power Sharpener has an interesting decision here as to whether or not to go ahead and renovate plus fences.
I think he has to here because otherwise jonswar, for sure, the animal breeder.
So Power Sharpener chose to sow instead.
Huh.
Well, I mean, fences are still open.
That's true.
So now Manpanzee is lamenting not sowing. Well, I don't think it's going to matter too much.
So I'm definitely guessing that Jonswar does renovate plus fences right there.
Yep, sure enough.
Yes.
And so, as I said earlier, that puts the score now in the mid-40s, 44. And then Power Sharpener right now has 39 points, plus some bonuses, and he hasn't renovated yet, and he hasn't fenced yet. So I think he'll be up by quite a bit on jonswar, and I guess we'll have to see whether it'll be enough, but I think it will. Because jonswar also, he's got that cooking hearth and animals, but he's going to eat a couple points as it's in.
Power Sharpener won't have to eat any points, we can see. He's definitely set there.
Correct. Yeah, so the renovation and the fences will be worth 8 points, 4 for the house and 4 for the fences, with 2 separate actions, obviously, for Power Sharpener.
Yeah, so this will be a pretty high-scoring game.
Power Sharpener took Clay, I guess, to make sure he doesn't lose his major improvement action when he renovates. Probably just to pick up a fireplace.
Probably.
Yeah, I would assume something like that.
Power Sharpener also, his renovation will be a free action due to his Slapdash renovation card.
All right.
Ah, yes.
So I think he'll be able to squeeze past jonswar. But Manpanzee finished up and sent his farm, and it's looking like he's probably his farm shows 39 points, but then he's got probably at least 10 bonus points there. So he's probably sitting at 50 something. Oh, wow.
Which is pretty impressive for a farm that looks like that.
Yeah, I missed the hoarder, actually, so he's like at 55. So yeah, that's pretty strong.
So yeah, I guess we're closing out here. I think that wsefranc, William, the organizer, was potentially going to try to get one of them to come on and talk to us afterwards. So we'll see if that happens. But just to give my thoughts overall, I think this was a pretty well contested game. Had some interesting plays, mostly in the mid game, is where sort of in stage 2 and 3 is where I thought there was some stuff that surprised me. But it was definitely an interesting game to watch and chat with you guys about.
Yeah. Thanks for your commentary. It's a lot of good points and stuff to talk about. Again, it was, interesting cards that we saw come up. Showcase a couple of the France cards here, which was kind of fun. That jonswar building a strategy essentially around the cat lover. And got to see a couple other these France cards in action. So that was kind of fun. And I'm glad we could cast this and see what was going on.
Yeah, definitely. I think that of the France deck cards, the ones that sort of really showcased their full capabilities today were Hayrake for Power Sharpener, as he was able to combo that with Acrobat very nicely, and then also the Lighthouse for Ken. Played that pretty well.
Hey guys, can I jump in on here for a minute?
Absolutely. So, yeah, welcome, William.
Hey, so I've been observing the game. I just wanted to make a couple comments about rules, just because it seems like a lot of the players didn't bother to find out what the format was before joining the tournament. So for anyone still listening who's in the tournament, which I would imagine probably a lot of the people in the tournament are going to be watching this video, you've probably figured out by now the way you advance, it's the top 2 players based on their combined score in each game. The first tiebreaker is most number of wins. So if, second and third tie, but the second player won one game and the third player didn't win any, then the player who won a game goes through. The next tiebreaker after that is whoever was closest to winning in one of their games. So, if I'm 1 point off winning in my, my second game, but I tie with someone who is 5 points off winning in their first game, then I'm going to win the tiebreaker. It's kind of confusing. I have a couple examples on the forum, and of course, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. And I am going to try to get one of these guys on for a post-match interview. So if you guys don't have time to stick around, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. We were actually still trying to discuss and figure out, who's actually going to be the second place here. It's pretty clear that Manpanzee is going to... If Power Sharpener was able to...
I personally, I think it's going to be it's going to be Power Sharpener, but they're posting their scores right now. So jonswar has 46. Manpanzee has 56, as we expected. That's a really strong showing and is going to win this individual game. And Power Sharpener has 53, so there it is, an 8-point victory, which clears the 5-point gap.
Very strong game for Power Sharpener. Very, very good.
Yeah, so there we go. So I guess we'll kind of sit around and they'll give some congratulations here, and maybe we'll get a guest or one of these folks to come on and ask them about kind of how their game went.
That well-placed European in round 4, right? He played in round 4. That's such an interesting play, and it really worked out well for him.
Yeah, we talked about that at the time, saying that I think most of us have tended to see it played later. And what was very interesting is that when he played it, it set him up perfectly to build 2 rooms, and then he went ahead and delayed his build so that he could get 2 extra reed with which to play homework and get his mid-game feeding engine out, which worked really, really well.
And the combination of the hay rake and the plow maker and the acrobat was just killer for him.
And then the regular rake on top of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, now they're discussing in chat kind of the dynamics of the tournament. Power Sharpener was saying, well, all I had to do was get ahead of Jonswar because this is the second game in their group. So he was just saying that was what he was aiming for once Manpanzee jumped out to a clear lead. So that is kind of interesting. As we were saying, that sort of format might influence some of these plays here.
In an interesting potential situation that I didn't really notice it coming up in this game, but given that Power Sharpener was seated directly after jonswar, if he was targeting him, he could have taken start player a lot, which made, even to the point where it might have been detrimental to him with respect to Ken and Manpanzee, but helpful against jonswar, and that just would have been the luck of the seeding draw.
Yeah.
Hey guys, am I allowed to whisper when it's on quiet all? Because I've been messaging Power Sharpener, but he's not responding.
I think private messaging doesn't go through when it's on quiet all, but now they have removed quiet, so you should be able to.
Okay, yeah, hopefully it goes through this time. I figured he wasn't ignoring me, but I didn't know how that interacted. It's actually a very nice feature that you can't direct message a player who's in the game.
Yeah, that helps in tournament games. Yeah.
Chris, yeah, I think if you're trying to get a hold of him, William, I think maybe just using the exclamation mark talk out to everybody might be the best way to go about that.
Is there anything else we can talk about? I don't know if I have much else to say about this particular game.
Is Manpanzee going to come on an interview?
William's asking Power, I believe.
Okay, because I am curious about Manpanzee's decision to put Deck Collector in round 7. I would like to ask him about that, but oh well.
Yeah, he ended up growing first in round 5 anyways, so that particular speculative play didn't really matter.
He got 6 foot out of it, though.
Yeah.
So. Yes, he did. That's a much harder thing to predict, though. I don't think when he played that in rounds 1 or 2 that he was thinking about that.
I really want to ask what he was thinking about playing Hoarder as his second occupation, and was that in round, I guess, 4 or something?
Yeah, I think that if you want to look back and figure out, say, how did Manpanzee win this game, I think it was pretty simply 3 things. One was that he built first, and that enabled him to get a bunch of resource grabs, and I think he was just generally very opportunistic about just grabbing big piles of things when they were available to him. And then thirdly, having 3 cards in his deck that gave a significant amount of bonus points, which in a high-scoring game can really be the difference.
Yeah, I mean, basically that's, I guess, it. Opportunism and,
Hey guys, so sorry. It looks like we are gonna have. He said he does want to come on to do an interview or whatever. So
Excellent.
okay, do you want to facilitate that, William?
yeah, I sent him my Skype info so that he can get on. Basically I'll let you know when he comes on.
Cool.
Okay, so if it's Power Sharpener, what do we got to ask him about? I guess just wealthiest European. He,
Well, I would be interested to know, since he was third place, he's got 2 players to contend against, but he's probably being 10 points behind Manpanzee, going to have a really hard time overtaking him. How closely was he following jonswar's farm, and how concerned was he about Ken, being 2 points behind him as well? So I'd be interested to hear some of the... oh my God! I sent him my information, but he's not paying attention.
Yeah, I'd like to ask him what his draft order was. My guess is that he took wealthiest European first, and probably Hedgemaster second, because I don't think jonswar would have passed that if it wasn't in the same pack as Animal Breeder.
possibly took it.
Right.
Miners is a little more tough to tell. Reed Pond is probably the sort of outright best one he has, but he doesn't have anyone that's, absurdly good.
Well, I wonder about homework. I'm curious as to how people value.
Whoa.
Hey, hi guys.
Hi there. This is Nathan nwoll.
Oh yeah, I guess I could probably recognize the voices. I was listening to the earlier recording
Oh, cool.
before the game. Yeah.
Okay, great. So this is Andy Kimball here, and then
you've got MattTheLesser, who I wasn't on the earlier recording, so...
Yeah, great to hear you finally.
Yeah.
You played a lot of games.
Yeah, I know. Well, you used to have a different screen name, and then you switched, but yeah, it's been many games over the years.
Yeah, and a lot of power games too, which you stopped playing anymore.
Yeah, I changed my opinion on those. But let's talk about this game.
Yeah, sure.
So I think our first question is just your draft order for your occupations. What was the first occupation you drafted?
I drafted Hedgemaster. Yeah, I mean, to be really honest, no, wait, sorry. That's wrong. The first occupation I drafted was the guy which provides all the resources. If it's a first occupation, I don't remember the name exactly.
East European. So Matt actually had guessed that.
Yeah, the reason I drafted that, actually, it was quite funny. I had no plan of playing Dancer, Acrobat, or anything. I had passed all of them in my first go, and they came back to me. So all the occupations in my original draft, my cards, the first 9 cards I saw, they were so bad that I had planned to only play European guy 7th, 8th round and hopefully get arms in the minor or something like that.
Yeah, so that's pretty funny. So that's I've definitely seen strategies come out that way. You say all these cards are junk, so I'll take this one that rewards me for only playing this one.
Yeah, if you look at the draft,
and Alms was in there.
If you see my draft, all the cards are so bad. There's no way of me thinking of strategizing my game on playing occupations.
And so you got Hedgemaster second then?
Pardon me? Hedgemaster was second one, yeah.
Nice.
And then I drafted... So I think I drafted Acrobat only to block Dancer because I had passed Dancer. So, and I was not hoping that it will come back because somebody might have seen Dancer already or Acrobat already, and they will see Dancer and pick it up. So I just wanted to block Dancer getting the Acrobat, and it came back to me.
Yeah, so that is always a funny way when you put a combo together that way, and you're like, wow, that better not let that combo get together. And
Yeah. Another card I had was Conjurer, which there was no need to play, I think.
Oh, you had sorry. What
That,
was it?
I think that was my last pick. The guy which gives grain on TP.
Oh, right, sure.
That came back as well, but there was no need to play, I think.
Yeah.
Which minor did you take first?
If I remember correctly, was it probably Slapdash?
Oh, okay.
I think so.
Interesting.
Huh. Yeah.
I don't remember, but probably it was Slapdash. Yeah.
We
So you didn't see Alms? Because I saw Ken played that, but I guess...
No, I did see Arms, but when I already got Dancer and Acrobat, then I had changed my plan. While when I started picking up my minors, I had no plan to play European by then.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, my actual plan for my first three occupation was Plowmaker and Dancer and Acrobat. Sorry, and also my first card I remember now was the guy I played very first, which was you pay 2 food and 2 read and you can play your 2 occupations. I think that was my first card in that case. That was either my first card or second card.
Yeah, so you apparently think that the homework, that is the one that lets you play 2 occupations. So you think you value that one higher?
Not really, to be very honest, but it kind of fitted in the strategy after I got that card when I asked the question about the third guy being able to take plow.
Oh, right, sure.
Because otherwise I would have played those 2 of those occupations early in the game, Acrobat and Dancer. But when I know that I could take that without any problem, then I decided to probably use European or do something like, depending upon how the stage 1 goes. There was hurry into playing Dancer or Acrobat, so I was like, I'll probably use that guy.
Yeah, I think the way you played him in round 4, it was very good. It worked very well. It's not something I've seen particularly frequently with that card, but I think that's something that people should consider playing it in round 4 or round 5 for 3 or 4 crucial resources.
Yeah, actually Ken's move, and I think that was round 3 where he took the SP with his first player with Grain Elevator.
Yeah.
That was kind of a setback for me. That kind of like I was not sure. Then I had to change my strategy again just because of that move. Because earlier, so if you remember in first round, I took the 1 read after RSF.
That's right.
Yeah, my plan was to actually SP in the second stage, most likely.
Oh, right. So
yeah,
play homework right away, sure.
Yeah, so I wanted to so I was also not sure if that would work, so I did not want to take a chance if people during the middle of the game start saying that this combo is not gonna work at all.
Right.
So I was like, I let's just be aggressive about it and do it early if I could. But when I could not do it till 4th round, I was like, let's just play the European guy, get some resources, and then do it after the FG and just push for that one.
Cool. So I have a question that I'd like to ask. This is William here. How much were you keeping an eye on jonswar? Did you think you had a chance to overtake Manpanzee, or were you not even considering him? Like when you were playing out the game, how much are you keeping an eye on his farm as well as Ken, who was only 2 points behind you in game 1, but ended up being quite far behind in game 2?
Yeah, that's a very good question actually, because I really wanted to go through next stage for once, and obviously my original plan was to win this game if I could. And there was one thing though, if I would worry about John or Manpanzee since the beginning of the game, I would not be able to play my natural game at all. I would put extra pressure on myself and would make mistakes which would not be good at the end of the game. So there was no reason for me to worry about any of them in the beginning at all. The whole idea was to set up my own game, play for maximizing my score. And I already saw, it was actually very helpful when I saw that in the 5th round, I think, when I saw that earlier I was going to SP, but then I saw that I could actually get 2 rooms and get most likely back-to-back FG, which didn't happen because of the feeding issues. But and other players were like Ken was going for, obviously I had seen Lighthouse and it looked like Ken is going for that, and I was not sure why John was not making rooms,
Mm-hmm.
but that was kind of working in my favor. So I took 2 read in round fifth, so that it should delay his room more. And funny part was I actually didn't notice that he had 3 sheep, so I didn't think about he might have cat lover.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, after round 6, it was kind of obvious. After round 6 or 7, that he's going for something like that, fence or something like that. But before that, I didn't really think about that. So earlier was like, this is a good opportunity for me to go to 2 first and then use my combo to feed myself and then just have a very good farm, because that was the only way I could maximize. I had not seen Animal Breeder in the game. I had no clue he had that.
Yeah.
So
And sorry, and how scared were you when Animal Breeder came out? Because I'm not sure of the exact stats, but in my opinion, Animal Breeder was probably the strongest card in the draft.
that is very true. But then, so to come, I'll answer this question by coming back to your original question. So then, once my game was set up, around I think round 9th or 10th, or I think even later, at around round 11, I was pretty confident that I would have a decent farm. And then Animal Breeder came out. I think he played it in round 10, if I'm not wrong.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So by that time I was like, let's see. I mean, to be very honest, he was not really looking that good from that aspect in the beginning. Animal Breeder was going to make him stronger, but how stronger was, by that time I think I had 4 fields already and they were sown. So that's a lot of confidence already, like, when you have 4 fields sown for you.
Right.
Yeah, so my whole strategy after that was to get to fences and collect some animals if I could.
Yep.
That didn't really happen that much, but then just things fall into places. I was almost considering taking SP in round 13th without any minor,
Yeah.
but man already did it. So
Yeah, so
Did you-
we were wondering if, of course, because jonswar had to get the mendicant out, so we were
Yeah.
wondering how much pressure he felt by you, how many of your occupations he had seen in the draft, for example, and of course he didn't see Hedgemaster,
Yeah.
which was your first pick.
no, that was my second pick, I think.
Oh, okay, sorry, the wealthiest European, sorry.
Yeah. So, I know, I actually thought of if I could block his, once Manpan took occupation
Yep.
in round 13th, I was actually considering to block, if John would not take occupation, I would just play Basket Maker, most likely, in round 13 and block his Conservator.
Mm-hmm.
So then he would have pressure of Conservator or Mendicant in round 14th. It's hard to get both of the orcs if somebody is there to block you.
Right.
So he did take Conservator. Then once he took Conservator, I checked the score, like how much score he was at, how much score I was at, and I did some sort of calculations with that, and I was sure that it's going to be really close. I was like, either I'll make it closely or whatever. So I was not like, I was like 60-40, I guess, that I will make it after he played Conservator.
Yep.
Yeah, but then I was like, I should still focus on getting my corpse zone in round 14 and getting my fences in Stonehouse. So those were a few things. Just maximize my point rather than trying to block him, because you never know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
Did you ever?
Yeah, if I had any good minor occupation left, I might have considered blocking his mendicant more strongly. But I think I had Conjure and Basket Maker in my hand, so that was not going to help a lot.
Yeah. Did you consider? I think at one point we noticed that you could have built a one square pasture and then plowed 2 fields with your hay rake and actually stolen the head of the revolution bonus, which is the old speedy farmer card. Did you ever consider doing that?
Uh, to be really honest, after round 12, I had forgotten about Manpanzee.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I was not worried about how many points he's going to get it. And I did consider, because wood was looking tight for me at some point of time. So I did 6 fences earlier, but for rest of the fences, wood was looking a bit tight on me. So I thought I might go for 2 more fields, but then I went against it. But I did not fight for revolution bonus. I think I didn't even think about it because I had ignored him totally because there was no way. I mean, the focus if the focus was to go through, I had to just maximize my point as much as I could.
So what I thought was really interesting about this game, just kind of an interesting dynamic, was Manpanzee filled up his farm, which means very early, which means he couldn't go really for a renovation in round 14, as well as he couldn't go for a plow, which are two of the most hotly contested spots, depending on how things are working out in round 14. So I thought that was an interesting dynamic to this game.
That kind of helped. I think both me and John, because if you think about it, I had a easy go at my renovation, and John sort of had a easy go on his fields.
Yeah.
Yeah, we noticed that jonswar was able to plow several fields without a plow or anything.
No, he had turn west plow.
Oh, right. Yeah, the turn rest.
Yeah. But still, I mean, it was a lot easier for him because Ken had a different strategy altogether. So, and he was not taking SP or anything too much.
Mm-hmm.
So, he had an easy go on. My biggest worry was that if John would be able to earlier I had only known about conservator once Ken mentioned it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was really bad. I asked Ken, can we not talk about the draft, if you remember?
Yes, yeah.
So I had not seen conservator. I might have seen, I might have forgotten, but I think I did not even see it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was not even sure how much was a bluff over there, but Ken generally does not do that. He has a habit of discussing his cards. Sorry, Ken. So, I mean, I was like, okay, but at that time, I didn't even think about it, I think, that much as well. But once I saw that he's not going for clay at all and he's just collecting stone, I was like, okay, he's going to get into stone house easily. So then as I said earlier, I thought about pressuring one of his orc, at least conservator or mendicant, if he does not play at that moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're at 2 hours or close to on this video. So if you guys have any final questions for Power Sharpener, please go ahead. I'd just like to say congratulations on a great second game. Good luck in the future. And if you guys want to close out the show, that'd be great.
I have a very quick question.
For me?
For all of you.
Go ahead.
What did you guys actually, I know I had discussed this with Kimball, and I'm pretty sure he might have mentioned it after that with everybody. What did you think about that combination?
I agreed with Kimball. I felt like the combination works with the way the cards are
the one thing I really wanted to see, which I read, was because the minor said work phase, and I wanted to make sure that acrobat does not work after work phase. And reading acrobat, it did look like it's not, work phase is not finished yet, so it should work like it would with Chamberlain or Field Warden, I think.
So to be honest, when you asked the question, I didn't have the card in front of me. So I didn't remember the exact wording, and didn't know that the word work phrase was on there. But I felt like, it works with Field Warden, it works with these other things. It seemed it should fall into the same category.
Same category, yeah. I mean, it makes it a lot easier. I think it's a very strong combo if you can get all these cards. But I mean, we should not consider blocking that because I think this combo will make probably the France deck a good deck.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
For what it's worth, I also agreed, and I think we discussed it actually a bit at length when at the same time you guys were talking about it on the cast. So if anyone is listening to this, they've probably already heard us go through it. But yeah, I think we agree with you.
Cool. Thanks a lot
Great.
for inviting for the interview.
And thank you to Nathan and Kimball for having me on too. Hopefully we can do another game or two before it's done. But any last thoughts on this one?
Nope, I got nothing else. Thanks everyone for watching is all I gotta say.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you so much for Power Sharpener for being willing to come on and have this interview afterward. I think that's going to add a lot to the casting, so I appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks a lot for inviting. Have a good day.
All right. Until next time.
Yep.
All right.
Bye.